Your government doesn't want you to be financially independent, and I can prove it with one simple question. If politicians truly wanted citizens to build wealth and achieve financial freedom, why do they consistently implement policies that make it harder for ordinary people to get ahead, while making it easier for the already wealthy to accumulate even more? Think about it. Every major government program, from the tax code to monetary policy, from banking regulations to student loan systems, creates a pattern that keeps the majority dependent while enriching a connected minority. This isn't incompetence or unintended consequences. It's the deliberate design of a system that has operated the same way for centuries across every civilization. The uncomfortable truth is that financially independent citizens are politically dangerous citizens. They don't need government programs, they can't be controlled through economic fear, and they have the resources to challenge established power structures. But citizens living paycheck to paycheck, drowning in debt, and dependent on government benefits, they're predictable voters who will consistently choose the security of dependency over the risk of freedom. What I'm about to show you isn't conspiracy theory. It's documented historical pattern that repeats in every society where governments grow large enough to manipulate economic outcomes. From feudal Europe to modern America, the playbook is identical. Create economic conditions that concentrate wealth upward while convincing the masses that their poverty is either temporary, bad luck, or someone else's fault. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why your government has a vested interest in keeping you broke, how they accomplish this goal, and most importantly, how to break free from their system before it's too late. To understand how governments systematically create poverty, we need to examine medieval Europe's feudal system, which perfected the art of economic control through deliberate scarcity. Under feudalism, kings didn't just rule through military force, they maintained power by ensuring that peasants could never accumulate enough wealth to challenge the existing order. Lords controlled all the land, the primary source of wealth, and peasants were bound to work that land in exchange for just enough food and shelter to survive. But here's the crucial part. The system was deliberately designed to prevent upward mobility. Peasants were forbidden from owning land, prohibited from learning to read or write, and legally prevented from moving to seek better opportunities. Any surplus they produced was immediately confiscated through taxes, tithes, and feudal obligations, ensuring they could never save enough to buy their freedom or start competing businesses. The church reinforced this economic bondage with religious doctrine, teaching that poverty was virtuous, that wealth was sinful, and that questioning your economic station was tantamount to questioning God's will. Meanwhile, the nobility lived in luxury, accumulated vast estates, and passed their wealth down through generations, creating a permanent class structure that lasted for centuries. This wasn't accidental. Medieval rulers understood that financially independent peasants would inevitably demand political rights, form competing power centers, and potentially overthrow the existing system. So they created legal, economic, and social structures specifically designed to trap the majority in permanent poverty while concentrating all wealth and power in the hands of a tiny elite. The feudal system worked so effectively at maintaining inequality that variations of it have been copied by every authoritarian government since, from Soviet collectivization to modern welfare states that create dependency rather than opportunity. The devastating effectiveness of this system became clear during the 14th century, when the Black Death killed roughly half of Europe's population, creating an accidental experiment in what happens when the poor suddenly have bargaining power. With so many peasants dead, the surviving workers could finally demand higher wages, better living conditions, and more freedom because lords desperately needed their labor. For the first time in centuries, ordinary people were accumulating wealth, buying land, starting businesses, and challenging the social order. The response from the ruling class was swift and brutal. They passed laws like England's Statute of Labourers in 1351, which made it illegal for peasants to demand wages higher than pre-plague levels, illegal to move between employers seeking better pay, and illegal to refuse work at whatever wage was offered. When peasants continued to organize and demand economic rights, governments responded with massacres, like the suppression of the English Peasants' Revolt in 1381, where thousands were killed not for violence, but for demanding fair wages and an end to serfdom. The message was clear. Economic independence for the masses was such a threat to established power that rulers would literally kill to prevent it. What's most revealing is that these weren't responses to violent revolution, they were preemptive strikes against economic mobility itself. The ruling class understood that once ordinary people accumulate enough wealth to support themselves independently, they stop accepting arbitrary authority and start demanding political representation. France's pre-revolutionary government made the same calculation, systematically preventing the emerging merchant class from accumulating political power proportional to their economic success, ultimately leading to the French Revolution, when the Third Estate decided they would no longer subsidize a system that kept them excluded from power, despite generating most of the nation's wealth. Today's system operates with identical goals, but uses more sophisticated methods to keep you economically dependent and politically compliant. Consider the modern tax code. It's deliberately designed to penalize earned income while rewarding investment income, ensuring that people who work for wages pay higher effective tax rates than those who live off inherited wealth or capital gains. A teacher paying 25% income tax while a billionaire pays 15% capital gains tax isn't an accident. It's policy designed to prevent wage earners from accumulating enough capital to join the investor class. The student loan system follows the same pattern. Instead of making higher education affordable, government-backed loans ensure that young adults start their careers with crushing debt that forces them to accept whatever employment they can find, regardless of working conditions or employer behavior. A debt-burdened worker can't afford to quit a bad job, can't take time to start a business, and can't hold out for better opportunities. Exactly the economic captivity that benefits employers and government alike. Even more insidious is how central bank monetary policy systematically transfers wealth upward through inflation and asset price manipulation. When the Federal Reserve creates trillions of dollars and uses them to buy government bonds and mortgage securities, asset prices skyrocket while wages stagnate, making homeownership impossible for new buyers while enriching existing property owners. The 2008 bailouts revealed the system's true priorities. When banks made reckless bets and lost, taxpayers absorbed the losses while bank executives kept their bonuses and shareholders were made whole. But when ordinary Americans lost their homes to foreclosure, they received no bailouts. They were told that moral hazard required them to face the consequences of their decisions, while the institutions that caused the crisis faced no consequences at all. This isn't incompetence. It's the same feudal logic applied through modern financial instruments. Keep the masses in debt, dependent on employment they can't afford to lose, and unable to accumulate enough capital to challenge existing power structures. Breaking free from this system requires understanding that financial independence isn't just about money, it's about power, and your government will never willingly teach you how to acquire it. First, recognize that traditional financial advice is often designed to keep you trapped, putting money in savings accounts that earn less than inflation, working for wages instead of building assets, and trusting retirement systems that can be changed by politicians whenever it's convenient. Instead, study how the wealthy actually build wealth. They own businesses, real estate, and assets that generate income independently of their labor, allowing them to accumulate capital faster than inflation can erode it. Second, understand that debt is only dangerous when it's consumer debt that buys depreciating assets, but strategic debt used to acquire income-producing assets is how the rich get richer. They borrow money at low interest rates to buy properties, businesses, and investments that return more than the cost of borrowing. Third, minimize your dependence on systems controlled by others. Diversify your income sources so you're not dependent on a single employer. Build skills that remain valuable regardless of economic conditions, and create multiple streams of passive income that work even when you can't. The goal isn't just to become wealthy, it's to become financially sovereign, meaning your economic survival doesn't depend on government programs, employer benefits, or the goodwill of institutions that view you as a resource to be extracted from, rather than a person to be served. Throughout history, the people who escaped poverty weren't those who worked hardest within the existing system, but those who recognized the system was designed to trap them and built alternative paths to wealth and independence. Your government wants you to believe that financial struggle is natural, that wealth inequality is inevitable, and that your only option is to vote for politicians who promise to manage your poverty more compassionately. But the real solution isn't better management of dependency. It's the complete elimination of dependency through the systematic acquisition of assets, skills, and knowledge that make you economically ungovernable.